So I'm going to start today, not with any slides, but just with a conversation to frame up where we seem to be headed with this initiative. We've been doing work for a long time in the work that we have always focused on children, but we've been doing work for a long time to assist girls as they empower themselves. We just haven't called it that. And it was 3 years ago this month that then President-elect Shekhar Mehta came to us on the board and said, I'd like to do an initiative that really focuses on girls specifically. And so this task force was formed, and we did a tremendous amount of research and liaising with Rotary's partners, such as the UN, the World Bank, and others, UNICEF, and other agencies of the United Nations, as well as the Gates Foundation, and looked at the research that had been done. And that's how we aligned what Rotary would be doing with those other organizations. We fully expected in 2021, 2022 that this would be like all presidential initiatives. It was one of 2 or 3 special projects that the president had, and then in the next year, those might change. This is a great example of continuity in Rotary because President Jennifer Jones last year decided that no, this is not something that should end. We should continue it. And then this year, Gordon McInally again said, yes, this is going to be a presidential initiative. And next year, President-elect, or now President-elect, Stephanie Urchik has also supported this. So it's unheard of to have a 1-year presidential initiative that has continued as long as this one has. And I think that's a real testament to how all of us, and especially you and the club members that you work with, the clubs have really kept this alive and really kept this going. And it is so energizing and so rewarding to see that kind of commitment to assisting the girls of our world as they become empowered women. So what's new in this initiative and where is it going from here? As Patrick said, this will continue. One of the things the task force is looking at this year is how do we stabilize this a little bit more? We've got it going as a presidential initiative from year to year, but what does the future look like? So that's what we'll be really examining and looking at all the options for it in this current year. And so you can expect to hear some news about that probably nearer to the end of the year as the task force and the ambassadors who are consulted on this try to shape up where we go from here. But what is new this year, and it has been in development for about 1.5 years now, is a slight change in the language we're using to talk about this initiative, at least in English. We started this project calling it, or this initiative calling it, Empowering Girls. And that was a compromise from using the language of international development, which is the girl child. And in some parts of the world, that's a meaningful term. I would say in North America, in Europe, in Australia, in some other parts of the world, the girl child doesn't really resonate. And that's why we went to Empowering Girls. And as we continued to work with partner organizations and heard their language, we realized Empowering Girls maybe needs a little bit of a shift, at least in English. In Spanish and French, it translates pretty much the same. But in English, there's a big difference between empowering girls, which means we are giving them the right to be empowered, versus girls' empowerment, which means we're supporting them, we're advocating for them, we're providing resources to them as they discover and then use their own power, and they empower themselves. So this year, we are really focusing on calling this girls' empowerment. It's a very small shift, but it's a huge shift in meaning. So you'll be seeing more of that, and many of the resources and materials that we're using will be reshaped in that way. We're also continuing to emphasize youth protection. So we have the Youth Protection Guide, and that's a really important resource to provide to clubs and club members who are engaging in projects, because we do have a responsibility to protect the girls that we are supporting and advocating for. And so make sure that they know about that. That would be huge. You have a youth protection officer in most districts. That person can be a great ally in helping to do this. The partnerships we've been emphasizing are incredibly important. You're going to hear about some of those today that are doing extraordinary work and who bring great expertise to the projects that we can do in clubs. And if you're just getting started, or if you're hearing from clubs or Rotary members, gee, it just seems so big to me. You know, we have some great initiatives in your zone. The Crown Her initiative in Trinidad and Tobago is a great example of trying to move a government towards support. That's big and hairy, and that may be a little scary for some clubs. But a very easy way to get started is to simply ask, well, do you have a food bank in your community? And if you have a food bank in your community, you have a girls' empowerment project right there. You can provide feminine hygiene products in the donations you make to food banks. It makes a huge difference. And the food bank executive directors I've talked to, they always say, we never have enough of these products. And when we do, they just fly off the shelves. We can't keep them. So that is always a very meaningful and important way. And if you sponsor students to RILA, think about a girl who would not have the opportunity to get leadership development and that kind of self-esteem development if she did not participate. We often look for the best and the brightest, you know, the captains of the football team, the debating team members, the A students. If we look a little deeper, we can find a girl who would love to have the chance to empower herself. So those are just a few thoughts as you move forward. I want to thank you for the work that you are doing. This is incredibly important and incredibly meaningful, and it starts with each one of us. This is not a big, high-level Rotary corporate initiative. It is our initiative, and it, as I said earlier, it really is for the girls of the world, and it's their initiative. So with that, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time.